The arrival. The sleek, silver shuttle glided through the swirling purple atmosphere of Nexus Prime, home to the Galactic Academy of Military Strategy. Inside, Zara Chen, the first human exchange student ever admitted to the prestigious institution, pressed her face against the viewport. Her dark eyes widened, taking in the alien world below. "Wow," she whispered, her breath fogging the glass. Towering spires of crystalline material stretched towards the sky, their surfaces refracting the light of twin suns. Vehicles of various shapes and sizes zipped between the buildings, following intricate patterns that seemed chaotic at first glance, but revealed an underlying order upon closer inspection. As the shuttle descended, Zara's grip tightened on her duffel bag. It contained everything she'd brought from Earth: clothes, personal items, and a few cherished mementos, but her most valuable possession was invisible. The knowledge and experience gained from growing up on humanity's homeworld, a planet classified as a Deathworld by galactic standards. The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper. Zara stood, stretching her legs after the long journey. She'd spent the past week in various spacecraft and stations, each jump bringing her closer to this moment. Now, as the doors hissed open, she took a deep breath of alien air. It smelled faintly of ozone and something sweet, like overripe fruit. Zara's enhanced filtration implants kicked in, analyzing the atmosphere for any potential toxins. A green light flashed in her peripheral vision. All clear. As she stepped onto the landing pad, a wave of vertigo washed over her. Nexus Prime's gravity was about 80% of Earth's, and it took her a moment to adjust her stride. A small group of aliens waited nearby, their diverse forms a testament to the varied life in the galaxy. One figure stepped forward, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin and 4 arms. "Welcome, Zara Chen of Earth," it said, its voice melodious and without any apparent speech organs. "I am Professor Excelthor, Dean of Interspecies Relations. We are honored to have you join us at the Academy." Zara bowed slightly, a gesture she'd been told was universally respectful. "Thank you, Professor. I'm excited to be here and learn from you all." Zelthor's skin rippled in what Zara hoped was a positive response. "Come, let us show you to your quarters. Your classmates are eager to meet you." As they walked, Zara couldn't help but notice the curious and sometimes wary glances from passing aliens. She'd been briefed on the reputation humans had in the galactic community: fascinating, but dangerous, unpredictable, resilient to a fault. They entered a large, domed building. The interior was a riot of color and texture, clearly designed to accommodate a wide range of species. Zara saw creatures floating in bubbles of liquid, others scuttling along on multiple legs, and some that seemed to phase in and out of visibility. "This is the main hub," Selthor explained. "You'll find dining facilities, recreation areas, and study spaces here. Your living quarters are in the adjacent building." Zara nodded, trying to take it all in. Her enhanced memory implant was working overtime, cataloging every detail for later review. As they approached a group of aliens that appeared to be about Zora's age, though with alien species, it was hard to tell, Zelthor made introductions. "These are some of your classmates. Vexna of the Quiller Collective, a being composed of shimmering threads of light pulsed in greeting. Skitic from Hive World Omega, a insectoid creature clicked its mandibles. And Bloop, a Morphean. This last one was a gelatinous cube that changed colors rapidly." Zara smiled at each of them. "It's great to meet you all. I look forward to learning together." Vexna's light threads pulsed rapidly. "We have heard much about humans. Is it true that you come from a world of constant warfare?" Zara blinked, taken aback. "Well, not constant warfare, but—" Skitic interrupted with a series of rapid clicks that Zora's universal translator rendered as, "They say humans can survive temperatures that would boil most species alive, and that you intentionally ingest poisons for pleasure." "I think you mean spicy food," Zora said with a nervous laugh. "And yes, Earth does have extreme environments, but Bloop rippled, changing from blue to orange. I heard humans continue fighting even when limbs are severed. Is this true? Do you regenerate like the salamandrins of Rigelmine? Zara held up her hands, feeling overwhelmed. Whoa, okay. I think there might be some misunderstandings here. Humans are tough, sure, but we're not invincible killing machines. We're just adaptable. Professor Xelthor's skin shimmered in what Zara was beginning to recognize as amusement. Perhaps it would be best to let Zara settle in. There will be plenty of time for questions and cultural exchange in the coming days. Grateful for the intervention, Zara followed Xelthor to her quarters. The room was spartanly furnished but comfortable, with a bed that could adjust its density and temperature. Rest well, Zara Chen, Xelthor said. Classes begin tomorrow, and I suspect you'll find them illuminating. After the professor left, Zara flopped onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. The reality of her situation was finally sinking in. She was light years from home, the sole representative of her species at the most prestigious military academy in the galaxy. She thought back to the rigorous selection process that had brought her here. The physical and mental tests, the countless strategy simulations, the in-depth studies of known alien cultures. Zara had excelled in all of them. Driven by a deep-seated desire to prove that humans could contribute positively to the galactic community. But now, faced with the reality of alien life and the misconceptions about her own species, Zara felt a flicker of doubt. How could she bridge the gap between human and alien perspectives on warfare and strategy? Her musings were interrupted by a soft chime. A holographic display flickered to life above her bed, showing her class schedule for the next day. Zara's eyes widened as she read the list of subjects. Psychic warfare and defense, faster-than-light battle tactics, ethics of planet-scale weapons, xenobiology and exploitation of weaknesses. It was going to be an interesting semester, to say the least. The next morning, Zara woke early, her body still on Earth time. She went through a series of stretches and exercises designed to keep her in peak condition in the lower gravity. As she moved, she mentally reviewed key points about the alien species she'd be studying with. Dressed in the Academy's standard uniform, a form-fitting suit that adapted to each species' unique physiology, Zara made her way to her first class, faster-than-light battle tactics. The classroom was a large, circular chamber with tiered seating. Holograms flickered in the center, showing star systems and fleet movements. Zara took a seat, noticing the wide berth her classmates gave her. The instructor, a being of pure energy contained within a humanoid force field, materialized at the front of the room. Welcome, students. I am Professor Luxvox. Today, we will discuss the intricacies of coordinating fleet movements across vast distances when time dilation and causality become factors. As the lecture progressed, Zara found herself increasingly fascinated. The concepts were mind-bending, far beyond anything taught in Earth's military academies. She raised her hand to ask a question about relativity's effects on predicted battle outcomes. The room fell silent. Every alien eye, or sensory organ, turned to her. Professor Luxvox's energy form pulsed. Yes, human Chen. Zara swallowed hard but pressed on. In situations where multiple fleets are engaging across light years of space, how do you account for the differing time experiences of each group? Wouldn't this make coordinated strikes almost impossible? A murmur ran through the class. Professor Luxvox's force field shimmered. An astute question. In fact, this very problem led to the development of quantum-entangled communication systems. However, your species has not yet achieved this technology, correct? Zara nodded. We're still working on it. On Earth, we have to rely on more conventional means of coordination. Skik, the insectoid student from the day before, clicked rapidly. But how do you wage war without instantaneous communication? It seems impossibly primitive. Before Zara could respond, another student, a crystalline being that chimed like wind chimes when it moved, spoke up. I've heard that humans often engage in combat without any communication at all, that they operate on pure instinct, like beasts. Zara felt her face flush. That's not true at all. We have complex command structures and communication systems. Sure, sometimes soldiers have to make split-second decisions on their own, but that's not. Fascinating, interrupted Professor Luxfox. Perhaps you could enlighten us on human battle tactics, Zara. How would your species approach, say, a multi-pronged assault on a fortified planet without FTL communication? Zara hesitated. She knew the answer. It involved decentralized command, pre-planned contingencies, and a heavy reliance on individual initiative. But she also knew how it would sound to this audience. Well, she began carefully. We would likely send in multiple smaller strike teams, each with their own objectives, but working towards a common goal. Each team would have the authority to adapt to changing circumstances on the ground. The class erupted in a cacophony of sounds, clicks, whistles, chimes, and subsonic rumbles that Zara felt more than heard. But how can you ensure coordination? Demanded a gelatinous student near the front. What if one team goes rogue? Asked another. The chaos. The potential for friendly fire, exclaimed a third. Professor Luxfox raised a glowing appendage, silencing the class. Students, remember that different species evolve different solutions to similar problems. While the human approach may seem unorthodox to us, we must not dismiss it outright. After all, they have survived on a death world and achieved spaceflight. The professor turned back to Zara. Thank you for sharing, Human Chen. I believe we all have much to learn from each other. As the class ended, Zara gathered her materials, her mind racing. She'd known there would be cultural differences, but the gulf seemed vaster than she'd imagined. How could she bridge it? A soft chime caught her attention. The crystalline student from earlier approached, its facets refracting the light in mesmerizing patterns. Greetings, Human Chen. I am Crystal Song of the Harmonious Lattice. I wish to apologize for my earlier comment. It was based on incomplete data. Zara smiled, relieved at the olive branch. No worries, Crystal Song. There's a lot of misinformation out there about humans. I'm here to learn, but also to teach, I guess. Crystal Song chimed softly. Perhaps we could exchange knowledge. I am most curious about how humans maintain unit cohesion without hive mind links. I'd like that, Zara said. As they walked to the next class together, she felt a glimmer of hope. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, she could help forge a new understanding between humans and the galactic community. Little did she know, her greatest challenge and opportunity was just around the corner. The simulation. The Galactic Academy's simulation chamber was a marvel of technology. As Zara stepped inside, the featureless gray walls shimmered and transformed, creating a perfect holographic representation of a star system. She felt a momentary disorientation as her senses adjusted to the new environment. Welcome, cadets, came the resonant voice of arch-strategist Xylix, a being composed of interlocking geometric shapes that constantly rearrange themselves. Today, we will be running a full-scale war game simulation. You will be divided into two teams, attackers and defenders. Zara found herself assigned to the attacking team. Along with Crystal Song and several other alien cadets she had yet to interact with closely. On the defending side, she recognized Vexna, Skitic, and Bloop among others. Your objective, Xylix continued, is to either successfully invade the home planet of the defending team or repel the invasion, depending on your role. You will have access to standardized fleets and resources. The simulation will run in accelerated time, with each hour representing a month of warfare. As the teams separated to strategize, Zara felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. This was her chance to prove herself, to show that humans could contribute valuable insights to galactic military doctrine. Her team huddled together, a bizarre collection of life forms united by a common goal. A serpentine creature named Sithor took the lead, its forked tongue flicking as it spoke. "We must approach with caution," Sithor hissed. "A direct assault would be foolish. I propose we use our faster-than-light capabilities to surround the system, cutting off any potential reinforcements." The other aliens nodded in agreement, but Zara frowned. "That's a solid start, but it's too passive. We need to keep them off balance, force them to react to us rather than the other way around." Crystal Song chimed curiously. "What do you suggest, Human Chen?" Zara took a deep breath, knowing her next words might be controversial. "We split our forces, send the bulk of the fleet to engage their defenses head-on, but also dispatch smaller, faster strike teams to hit vulnerable targets throughout their system. Supply lines, communication relays, secondary colonies." The response was immediate and heated. A gaseous being named Nebula 7 pulsed angrily. "Madness. Dividing our forces goes against every principle of unified fleet doctrine. The human strategy introduces too many variables," agreed a silicon-based life form called Silica Prime. "It is inefficient and risky." Zara stood her ground. "But it's unpredictable. They won't expect it. While they're scrambling to respond to multiple threats, we can identify weaknesses and exploit them." The debate raged on, with Zara finding herself explaining and defending basic human military concepts that she had always taken for granted. Flexibility, adaptability, the value of individual initiative. These were foreign ideas to species used to hive minds or rigid hierarchical structures. In the end, a compromise was reached. They would proceed with Sithor's encirclement plan, but incorporate elements of Zara's multi-pronged assault strategy. As the simulation began, holographic ships materialized around them. Zara found herself in command of a strike team, piloting a sleek vessel designed for speed and stealth. The star system spread out before them, a three-dimensional battlefield of incredible complexity. The initial stages went according to plan. Their main fleet engaged the defenders in a massive battle near the system's edge, while Zara's team slipped past, using asteroids and planetary bodies for cover. But as they approached their first target, a sprawling space station that served as a communications hub, Zara realized something was wrong. The station's defenses were far more formidable than their intelligence had suggested. "Evasive maneuvers," she shouted, instinctively taking control. Her alien teammates, used to more hierarchical command structures, hesitated for crucial seconds. Weapons fire lanced out from the station, catching one of their ships. The holographic vessel burst into flames, killed in the simulation. Zara gritted her teeth, pushing her ship into a wild spiral that confused the station's targeting systems. Crystal Song, target their sensor arrays. Nebula 7, use your ship's gas venting systems to create a debris field for cover. To her surprise and relief, her teammates responded, falling into the chaotic yet effective dance of human-style combat. They darted and weaved, presenting an unpredictable target as they struck at the station's weaknesses. In a matter of minutes, the tide turned. The station's defenses faltered, and Zara's team seized the opportunity to land a crippling blow. As the holographic structure began to break apart, Zara allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. But the battle was far from over. As they regrouped and headed for their next target, Zara received a priority communication from the main fleet. Things weren't going well there. The defenders, led by Vexna, had adopted an unconventional strategy of their own, using the system's star to mask massive troop movements. "They're learning," Zara muttered, "adapting to us." For the next several hours, the simulation raged on. Zara's strike team hit target after target, disrupting the defenders' supply lines and communication networks. But each victory came at a cost, and their numbers dwindled. The main battle swung back and forth, massive fleets clashing in intricate dances of destruction. Zara found herself constantly shifting strategies, trying to stay one step ahead of the increasingly unpredictable defenders. As the simulation entered its final stages, both sides were battered and exhausted. The attackers had managed to establish a beachhead on the defenders' home planet, but a fierce counterattack threatened to drive them back into space. Zara's team, now reduced to just herself, Crystal Song, and Nebula 7, received desperate orders to reinforce the ground troops. As they approached the planet, weaving through debris fields of destroyed ships, Zara made a decision. "We're not going to land," she announced. "Look at the planet's moon." Her teammates observed the holographic celestial body, confusion evident in their postures. "It's tidally locked," Zara explained. "One side always faces the planet. If we can get around to the dark side without being spotted, we can use it as a staging ground for a surprise attack." Crystal Song chimed skeptically. "But the orders." "Sometimes you have to trust your instincts," Zara interrupted. "We can do more good by striking where they least expect it." To her relief, her teammates agreed. They swung wide, using the moon's bulk to shield them from planetary sensors. As they touched down on the cratered surface, Zara quickly outlined her plan. Hours later, as the defenders celebrated pushing back the main invasion force, Zora's team struck. They came in fast and low, using the moon's gravity to slingshot themselves into the atmosphere at incredible speeds. By the time the defenders realized what was happening, Zara and her squad had taken control of their primary defense network. The simulation froze, holographic projections fading to reveal the gray walls of the chamber. Arch-strategist Zilix's geometrical form pulsed with what Zara hoped was approval. "And interesting outcome," Zilix said, their voice neutral. "I believe we have much to discuss. All cadets, prepare for debriefing." As they filed out of the simulation chamber, Zara found herself the center of attention. Some of her classmates looked at her with newfound respect, others with wariness or outright hostility. Vexna, the leader of the defending team, approached. The beam's light threads pulsed rapidly. "Your tactics were unexpected, human Chen. Chaotic, unpredictable." There was a pause. "Effective." Zara nodded, unsure whether this was praise or criticism. "Your adaptation was impressive too, using the star to mask your movements. Brilliant." Vexna's lights shifted to a softer hue. "Perhaps there is more to learn from each other than we realized." As they entered the debriefing room, Zara felt a mix of emotions. Pride at what she had accomplished, anxiety about how it would be received, and a growing realization of the vast gulf in military philosophy between humans and the galactic community. The next few hours were intense. Every decision was analyzed, every tactic scrutinized. Zara found herself defending not just her choices, but the entire human approach to warfare. Concepts like calculated risk and acceptable losses were met with horror by some species, while others found the idea of improvising mid-battle to be utterly foreign. "But how can you possibly account for every variable?" Zara argued at one point. "Sometimes you have to adapt on the fly. Trust your training and instincts." Arch-strategist Zilix's form reconfigured thoughtfully. An intriguing perspective. It goes against millennia of established galactic military doctrine. And yet, the results speak for themselves. As the debriefing concluded, Zilix addressed the entire class. "Today's simulation has given us all much to consider. The inclusion of human Chen and her unique approach has highlighted both the strengths and potential weaknesses in our current strategies. I expect each of you to meditate on what you have learned and be prepared to discuss it further in the coming days." As they filed out of the room, Zara felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Skitik, the insectoid student who had been skeptical of her in the beginning. "Your way of battle," Skik clicked, mandibles twitching. "It is strange to us, frightening even, but effective. This one would learn more, if you are willing to teach." Zara smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. "I'd like that, Skitik, and I have a lot to learn from you too. Maybe we can figure out a way to combine our strengths." As she headed back to her quarters, Zora's mind raced with the implications of the day's events. She had come to the Galactic Academy to learn, but it seemed she would be doing just as much teaching. The path ahead would be challenging, but for the first time since her arrival, Zara felt truly excited about the possibilities. Little did she know, her performance in the simulation had caught the attention of more than just her classmates. In the coming days, she would face challenges that would test not just her skills, but her very understanding of what it meant to be a soldier, a human, and a member of the galactic community. The challenge. The days following the simulation were a whirlwind for Zara. Word of her unorthodox tactics had spread throughout the academy, turning her into a controversial figure overnight. Some students sought her out, eager to learn more about human military thinking. Others avoided her, clearly unsettled by the implications of her strategies. It was during a xenobiology lecture that the challenge came. Professor Xelthor was discussing the importance of understanding alien physiology in combat situations when a tall, imposing figure rose from the back of the classroom. "I wish to issue a formal challenge," boomed a voice like grinding stones. All eyes turned to the speaker. Zara recognized him as Krokthak, a Petravian student. The Petravians were a silicon-based species known for their incredible physical durability and rigid, honor-bound culture. Professor Xelthor's skin rippled with surprise. "A challenge. Krokthak, this is most unusual. What is the nature of your challenge?" Krokthak's crystalline eyes fixed on Zara. "I challenge the human to a one-on-one tactical duel. Her chaotic methods go against everything we have been taught. I will prove that traditional galactic warfare doctrines are superior." A hush fell over the classroom. Zara felt her heart race, but she kept her expression neutral. She had read about the Petravian culture and knew that refusing a challenge would be seen as a sign of weakness. "I accept," Zara said, standing to face Krokthak. "What are the terms?" A low murmur rippled through the classroom. Professor Xelthor's skin shifted to a deep purple, a sign of concern. "This is highly irregular," Xelthor said. "However, if both parties agree, we can arrange a controlled tactical exercise. The parameters must be approved by the faculty." Krokthak nodded solemnly. "Agreed. Let it be a test of both strategic thinking and practical combat skills, a combination of simulated fleet command and personal combat." Zara's mind raced. This would be a true test of her abilities, pitting human adaptability against the Petravian centuries of refined tactical doctrine. "I agree to these terms," Zara said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. Professor Xelthor's skin rippled again. "Very well. The duel will take place in 3 days' time. Both participants will have access to the Academy's training facilities to prepare. May wisdom guide your preparations." As the class dispersed, Zara found herself surrounded by a mix of supportive and concerned classmates. "Are you crazy?" Bloop burbled, its gelatinous form quivering with agitation. "Krokthak is one of the top-ranked tactical students in the Academy." Crystal Song chimed worriedly. "And Petravian physical capabilities far exceed human norms. How will you compete in personal combat?" Zara took a deep breath. "I'll find a way. That's what humans do." The next 3 days were a blur of intense preparation. Zara spent hours in the simulation chambers, running through every possible scenario she could imagine. She studied Petravian physiology, looking for weaknesses that others might have overlooked. In the evenings, she trained her body, pushing herself to the limits in the Academy's variable gravity gym. She knew she couldn't match a Petravian's raw strength, but perhaps she could gain an edge in agility and endurance. On the eve of the duel, Zara sat in her quarters, reviewing her notes one last time. A soft chime at her door interrupted her concentration. "Enter," she called out. To her surprise, Vexna glided into the room, the quiller's light threads pulsing softly. "Human Chin," Vexna said, "I hope I'm not disturbing you." Zara shook her head. "Not at all. What can I do for you?" Vexna's lights shifted to a thoughtful blue. "I came to offer perspective. Many at the Academy view your tactics as dangerous, unpredictable. But in our simulation, I saw something more. Adaptability. creativity. Zara felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Vexna. That means a lot coming from you. Do not misunderstand, Vexna continued. I still find many of your methods unsettling. But perhaps that is the point. The galaxy is vast and full of surprises. Rigid thinking may not always serve us. As Vexna left, Zara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just fighting for herself tomorrow. She was representing humanity, showing the galaxy that there was value in their unique approach. The day of the duel dawned. The Academy's great arena, normally used for large-scale simulations, had been reconfigured for the event. One half remained a holographic chamber for the fleet command portion. The other half had been transformed into a variable terrain combat zone for the personal combat section. As Zara entered, she saw that nearly the entire Academy had turned out to watch. Students and faculty from dozens of species filled the observation decks. At the center of the arena stood Grokthak, his crystalline form gleaming under the lights. Arch-strategist Zilix's voice boomed through the arena. This tactical duel will consist of two parts. First, a fleet engagement simulation. Second, a personal combat trial. Victory in each section is worth 1 point. In the event of a tie, a panel of judges will determine the overall victor based on demonstrated skill and adherence to ethical combat protocols. Zara and Grokthak took their positions at opposite ends of the simulation chamber. The air shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by the vastness of space, holographic fleets arrayed before them. Begin, Zilix announced. Grokthak wasted no time, his fleet moving in a textbook pincer formation. Zara studied the battlefield, looking for opportunities. She noticed a nearby nebula, dense with ionized gases. As Grokthak's forces advanced, Zara split her fleet. The main body engaged the Petravian head-on, while a smaller, faster group slipped into the nebula. The battle raged, ships exploding in silent bursts of holographic fire. Grokthak's tactics were flawless, each movement precisely calculated for maximum effect. But Zara's unconventional approach kept him off balance. Just as it seemed Grokthak might overwhelm her main force, Zara sprung her trap. The ships hidden in the nebula emerged, their systems supercharged by the ionized gases. They tore through Grokthak's rear lines, throwing his carefully planned formation into disarray. In the ensuing chaos, Zara pressed her advantage. Her ships danced through the battlefield, striking weak points and vanishing before Grokthak could effectively retaliate. When the dust settled, Zara's forces had achieved victory, though at a heavy cost. The holographic battlefield faded, revealing a stunned audience. Point to human chin, Zilix announced. We will now proceed to the personal combat trial. As they moved to the variable terrain section, Zara could see the determination in Grokthak's crystalline eyes. She knew the Petravian would not underestimate her again. The terrain shifted, forming a rocky landscape with patches of dense vegetation. Zara and Grokthak were each given a standard-issue stun weapon and protective gear. Your objective is to incapacitate your opponent, Zilix explained. The terrain will periodically shift. Adaptation is key. At the signal to begin, Grokthak charged forward with shocking speed for his bulky frame. Zara dove to the side, using the rocky terrain for cover. What followed was a tense game of cat and mouse. Grokthak's superior strength and durability made direct confrontation suicide for Zara. Instead, she used the shifting terrain to her advantage, constantly moving, setting traps, and striking when least expected. At one point, Grokthak cornered Zara in a dense thicket. As he moved in for the finishing blow, the ground beneath them suddenly shifted, turning into a steep slope. Zara used the momentum to slide past Grokthak, firing her stun weapon at point-blank range. The shot connected, but Petravian physiology proved resilient. Grokthak stumbled but didn't fall. Zara knew she had to end this quickly before her stamina gave out. In a final, desperate gambit, Zara used the next terrain shift to climb to higher ground. As Grokthak pursued, She waited until the last moment, then leaped. She sailed over the surprised Petravian, twisting in midair to fire a sustained burst from her stun weapon at a critical junction in Grokthak's crystalline structure, a weak point she had discovered in her xenobiology research. Grokthak fell, his form vibrating from the stun effect. The arena fell silent. "Victory to human Chen," Xylix announced. "The duel is concluded." As the medical team rushed to check on both combatants, the arena erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds. Cheers, debates, and exclamations of disbelief. Once cleared by the medics, Zora approached Grokthak, who was slowly regaining his composure. "You fought with honor," Grokthak grumbled. "Your tactics were unexpected, but effective." Zara nodded respectfully. "Your skills are formidable. I couldn't have won in a straight fight. I had to use every trick I knew." Grokthak's crystalline features shifted in what Zara hoped was a smile. "Perhaps there is wisdom in your chaotic methods after all. I have much to contemplate." As they left the arena together, Zara was swarmed by her classmates. Questions, congratulations, and debates flew fast and furious. But above the din, Zora heard arch-strategist Xylix's voice. "A most illuminating contest," Xylix said, their geometric form pulsing with energy. "It seems we all have much to learn from each other. Human Chen, your unique perspective has certainly disrupted our traditional thinking. We will be watching your progress with great interest." As the excitement of the day began to fade, Zara realized that this was just the beginning. She had proven herself, yes, but more importantly, she had opened a dialogue. The challenge now was to bridge the gap between human and alien approaches to strategy and combat. What she didn't know was that her performance had caught the attention of forces beyond the Academy. Forces that saw both opportunity and threat in the human approach to warfare. As Zora prepared for bed that night, events were already in motion that would test not just her skills, but her very understanding of galactic politics and her role in it. The crisis. The aftermath of Zora's duel with Grokthak brought a new dynamic to the Academy. Students from various species sought her out, curious about human tactics and strategy. Even some instructors began incorporating elements of Earth's military history into their lectures. It seemed that Zara had succeeded in bridging some of the gap between human and alien approaches to warfare. But the peace was short-lived. It was during a routine stellar cartography class that the first signs of trouble appeared. Professor Telthor was demonstrating the intricacies of plotting FTL jumps when every holographic display in the room suddenly flickered and died. A moment later, the Academy's alert system blared to life. Arch-strategist Xylix's voice echoed through the halls. "All faculty and senior cadets report to the Grand Strategy Chamber immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Zara exchanged worried glances with her classmates as they hurried to the chamber. The normally orderly corridors were a chaos of beings from dozens of species, all moving with urgent purpose. As they entered the vast, circular room, Zara gasped. The central holographic projector showed a real-time view of nearby space, and it was alight with activity. Hundreds of unidentified ships were pouring through what appeared to be an artificial wormhole. Arch-strategist Xylix's form pulsed with an intensity Zara had never seen before. "We are facing an unprecedented crisis. An unknown force has opened a stable wormhole in the Nexus system. Their ships have already overwhelmed our outer defense grid." The room erupted in a cacophony of alien voices. Questions, theories, and exclamations of disbelief filled the air. Xylix's form expanded, commanding silence. "We have received a transmission from the invading force," Xylix continued. "They call themselves the Void Collective. Their demands are troubling." The holographic display shifted, showing a being unlike any Zara had ever seen. It seemed to be composed of swirling dark energy, with points of light like distant stars scattered throughout its form. The being spoke, its voice a discordant harmony of tones. "We are the Void Collective. Your realm of matter and energy is an affront to the purity of the void. Surrender your planets, your stars, your very essence to us. Embrace the peace of oblivion, or face annihilation. As the message ended, the chamber descended into chaos once more. Species that had been at peace for millennia now argued fiercely, their deeply ingrained military doctrines clashing as they tried to formulate a response. Zara felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Vexna, the Quiller student's light threads pulsing rapidly. "Human Chen," Vexna said, voice urgent. "The faculty is calling for volunteers to join the emergency response team. Your unique perspective might be valuable." Zara nodded, following Vexna to where a group of senior instructors and top students were gathering. Among them, she saw Grokthak, Crystal Song, and Skitik. Professor Excelthor acknowledged their arrival with a ripple of his iridescent skin. "Good, you're here. We need fresh ideas. Our standard protocols are failing against this void collective. Their technology, their very nature, it's like nothing we've encountered." Zara studied the tactical displays, her mind racing. The void collective's ships moved in patterns that defied conventional physics. They seemed to phase in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to target. "We need to adapt," Zara said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Everything we know about standard space combat might be useless here." Grokthak's crystalline form vibrated with tension. "What do you propose, human? Your chaotic tactics may have worked in simulations, but this is real. The stakes are too high for reckless gambles." Zara took a deep breath. "That's exactly why we need to think differently. Look at how they move, how they fight. It's not chaos. It's like they're dancing to music we can't hear." She pointed to the display. "See how they cluster, then disperse. There's a pattern, but it's not based on our understanding of tactical formations. We need to stop trying to predict their moves and start trying to disrupt their rhythm." Crystal Song chimed thoughtfully, like introducing dissonance into a harmonic structure. "But how do we accomplish this on a stellar scale?" Zara's mind flashed back to her Earth history lessons. "Guerrilla warfare," she said. "Hit-and-run tactics. We can't match them ship for ship, but we can frustrate their larger strategy." The alien students looked at her in confusion. Zara quickly explained the concept, drawing parallels to various conflicts in Earth's history. Skik clicked his mandibles excitedly. Yes. Like the eusocial defense strategies of my ancestors, swarm tactics that applied to starships." As the group debated and refined the idea, arch-strategist Zulix approached. Their geometric form was constantly shifting, a sign of deep calculation. "Your proposal is unorthodox," Zulix said. "But our conventional strategies are failing. We will implement this guerrilla warfare concept as part of our larger defense plan." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Zara found herself at the heart of the planning process, her human instincts for adaptive warfare proving invaluable against the alien threat. They divided their forces into small, agile squadrons, each given a high degree of autonomy. The goal was to harass the Void Collective's fleet, disrupting their formations and forcing them to react rather than press their advantage. As the plan was put into action, Zara and her fellow cadets were assigned to the Academy's command center. They watched with bated breath as the battle unfolded. At first, it seemed like chaos. The defending ships darted in and out of the Void Collective's formations, striking quickly and then retreating. Losses were heavy on both sides. But slowly, surely, a change came over the battle. The Void Collective's eerily perfect movements began to falter. Their ships started to bunch up defensively, losing the fluid grace that had made them so effective. "It's working," Vexna exclaimed, light threads pulsing brightly. "They don't know how to respond to this level of unpredictability." Zara allowed herself a small smile. "Now comes the hard part. We've disrupted them, but we still need to drive them back through that wormhole." As if in response to her words, a new threat emerged. The Void Collective ships began to coalesce, forming a massive, swirling vortex of dark energy. Alarms blared throughout the command center. Xylix's voice cut through the noise. They're attempting to collapse the entire star system into a singularity. All ships converge on the vortex. We must disrupt it at all costs. Zara's mind raced. They needed a way to break up that vortex, to introduce enough chaos into its structure to make it collapse. An idea struck her, wild and desperate. The Academy's quantum entanglement communicator, she said, turning to Xylix. Can we use it to send a signal directly into the heart of that vortex? Xylix's form pulsed with surprise. Theoretically, yes, but the power requirements would be enormous, and we have no way of knowing what effect it might have. Sometimes you have to take calculated risks, Zora said, echoing her words from the simulation days earlier. If we can disrupt their coordination even for a moment, it might be enough. After a tense debate, the plan was approved. As the defending fleet engaged in a desperate battle to hold back the encroaching vortex, the Academy's most powerful technologies were brought to bear. Zara found herself at the controls of the quantum entanglement device, her hand steady despite the weight of entire worlds resting on her actions. With a silent prayer to whatever might be listening, she initiated the sequence. A beam of pure information, unbound by the normal laws of physics, lanced out from the Academy. It struck the heart of the Void Collective's vortex, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a soap bubble bursting, the vortex collapsed in on itself. The Void Collective ships, suddenly bereft of their coordinating influence, fell into disarray. Press the advantage, Xylix commanded. Drive them back through the wormhole. The defending fleet surged forward, their earlier guerrilla tactics forgotten in a final decisive push. Void Collective ships retreated en masse, fleeing back through the artificial wormhole. As the last enemy ship disappeared, the wormhole itself began to destabilize. In a final flash of otherworldly energy, it collapsed, leaving behind only the stars and the battered but triumphant defending fleet. The command center erupted in a cacophony of alien cheers, whistles, and other sounds of jubilation. Zara found herself at the center of it all, being congratulated by beings from a dozen different species. As the initial euphoria faded, the enormity of what had just occurred began to sink in. They had faced an existential threat to the entire galaxy and emerged victorious. But the cost had been high, and questions lingered. Who were the Void Collective really? Would they return? And how would this experience change the galactic community's approach to warfare and defense? As Zara looked around at her alien classmates and instructors, she realized that the lines between student and teacher, between species and cultures, had blurred. They had all learned from each other, adapting and growing in the face of an unprecedented threat. The crisis was over, but its impact would be felt for generations to come. And at the heart of it all was a human cadet who had helped bridge the gap between worlds, proving that sometimes the most unconventional approaches could make all the difference. As the cleanup and recovery efforts began, Zara knew that her journey at the Galactic Academy was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. The resolution. In the days following the Void Collective's attack, the Galactic Academy of Military Strategy buzzed with a new energy. The once pristine halls now bore scars from the battle, a constant reminder of how close they had come to annihilation. But among the repair crews and bustling students, there was a palpable sense of unity that hadn't existed before. Zara found herself at the center of it all. As she walked to her first class since the attack, she was met with nods of respect and friendly greetings from species that had once regarded her with suspicion or outright hostility. The classroom itself had been transformed. Gone were the neat rows of desks. Instead, the room was arranged in a circular pattern, promoting open discussion and a free exchange of ideas. Arch-strategist Xylix materialized at the center, their geometric form pulsing with an energy Zara had never seen before. "Welcome, students," Xylix began, their voice resonating with newfound warmth. "The recent crisis has taught us all a valuable lesson. The galaxy is vast and full of unknowns, Our survival depends not on rigid adherence to tradition, but on our ability to adapt, to learn from one another. Xylix's form shifted, creating a holographic representation of the battle against the Void Collective. Human Chen's unorthodox tactics, combined with the unique abilities of many of your species, saved not just this academy, but potentially the entire sector. Zara felt a flutter of pride, tempered by the weight of responsibility. She glanced around, seeing a mix of emotions on her classmates' faces: pride, contemplation, and in some cases, a hint of lingering doubt. Grokthak, the Petravian student who had once challenged Zora, raised his crystalline hand. Arch-strategist, while the humans' tactics were effective in this instance, doesn't this go against millennia of established military doctrine? How can we be sure this wasn't merely a fluke? Xylix's form rippled in what Zora had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. A valid question, Grokthak. Perhaps it is best answered not by me, but by human Chen herself. All eyes turned to Zora. She took a deep breath, standing to address her peers. The thing about human military history, she began, is that it's full of flukes, of underdogs winning against impossible odds. We've learned that strict adherence to doctrine, while important, can also be a weakness. The key is balance, knowing when to follow the rules and when to break them. She gestured to the holographic battle display. What we did against the Void Collective wasn't about throwing away everything we've learned. It was about combining our knowledge in new ways. My guerrilla tactics wouldn't have worked without Skitik's swarm coordination or Crystal Song's harmonic disruption theories. Vexna's light threads pulsed in agreement. Indeed, it was the synthesis of our diverse approaches that ultimately proved successful. The discussion that followed was unlike anything Zora had experienced at the academy before. Students from every species shared their perspectives on the battle, offering insights and critiques. Ideas flowed freely, uninhibited by cultural barriers or preconceived notions. As the class ended, Xylix made an announcement that sent a ripple of excitement through the room. In light of recent events, the Academy's curriculum will be undergoing significant revisions. We will be incorporating a wider range of tactical and strategic philosophies, drawing from cultures across the galaxy, including, of course, human military history. The news spread quickly through the Academy. Over the next few weeks, Zora found herself involved in numerous committees and think tanks, working alongside faculty and fellow students to reshape the way the galaxy approached military education. But it wasn't just the Academy that was changing. Word of the Void Collective's attack and the unorthodox defense that had repelled it had spread throughout the galactic community. Zora began receiving messages from military leaders and strategists across known space, all eager to learn more about human tactics. One afternoon, as Zora was leaving a particularly intense debate on the ethics of guerrilla warfare, she was approached by Professor Xelthor. "Human Chen," Xelthor said, his iridescent skin shimmering with excitement, "I have some news that may interest you. The Galactic Council has been in contact with Earth's governments." Zara's heart skipped a beat. Earth's relationship with the wider galactic community had always been tentative at best. What do they want? Xelthor's skin rippled in what Zara now recognized as a smile. "They're proposing a formal alliance. Your actions here have convinced many that humanity has much to offer the galactic community. They're even discussing the possibility of establishing a joint defense force, with humans playing a key role in its leadership." The implications were staggering. Zara had come to the Academy hoping to learn, to maybe change a few minds about humanity. She never imagined she'd play a part in reshaping galactic politics. As the news spread, Zara found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. There were interviews to give, proposals to review, and endless meetings with representatives from various alien governments. Through it all, she worked to maintain the delicate balance between human ingenuity and alien wisdom that had proven so effective against the Void Collective. Months passed, and gradually, a new order began to emerge. The Galactic Academy of Military Strategy became a shining example of interspecies cooperation, with students and faculty from across known space working together to develop new approaches to galactic defense. On the anniversary of the Void Collective's attack, a ceremony was held at the Academy. Representatives from every major spacefaring species gathered to commemorate the victory and celebrate the new era of cooperation. As Zara stood on the stage alongside her alien classmates, now close friends, she reflected on how far they'd all come. The distrust and skepticism that had greeted her arrival felt like a lifetime ago. Arch-strategist Zilix approached the podium, their geometric form glowing with pride. 1 year ago, we faced a threat that could have ended life as we know it, Zilix began. We survived not through the strength of any one species, but through our ability to adapt, to learn from one another. The lesson is clear. Our diversity is not a weakness, but our greatest strength. Zilix's form shifted, creating a holographic representation of the galaxy. Today, we stand united as never before. The Joint Defense Force is operational, combining the unique strengths of every member species. Our borders are secure, our knowledge is expanding, and our future is bright. As applause filled the auditorium, Zara felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Grokthak, the Petravian student who had once been her fiercest rival. "Human Chen," he rumbled, his crystalline features set in what Zara now recognized as a smile. "It seems I owe you an apology. Your chaotic methods have brought more order to the galaxy than I ever thought possible." Zara grinned, clasping Grokthak's stony hand. "No apology necessary. We've all learned from each other. That's what really matters." As the ceremony concluded and the gathered beings mingled, sharing stories and ideas, Zara found a quiet moment to herself. She looked out at the stars, visible through the Academy's vast windows, and marveled at how much had changed. She had come to the Galactic Academy of Military Strategy to learn about alien warfare. Instead, she had helped teach the galaxy about humanity's unique approach to conflict and cooperation. More importantly, she had been part of forging a new understanding between species that had once viewed each other with suspicion and fear. The future was uncertain. The Void Collective might return, or new threats might emerge from the vast, unknown reaches of space. But Zara felt confident that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. A united galaxy, stronger in its diversity than it had ever been in uniformity. As she rejoined her friends, human and alien alike, Zara Chen, once an outsider at the Academy, now a bridge between worlds, knew that her journey was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. The stars beckoned, full of promise and challenge, and Zara was ready to meet them head-on, with the combined wisdom of 1,000 worlds at her back.